Brendan, the eve of the new season, how are you feeling and how's the summer been?
Well, we had a good break at the end of last season, and then we've come back. Pre-season's gone as well as I could have hoped for. Players looking fit, sharp, strong, and we're in a really good place.
With a successful campaign, your first one back here last year, is the aim just to improve on that, or what have you been telling the players over these few weeks?
Yeah, no, I think the messaging is pretty much the same in terms of when you're at a club like Celtic, it's the special challenges every single game, so it doesn't lessen just because you've had a successful season. So for us, it's very much the same idea. We come in, our objective is to win every domestic trophy. You can't hide behind anything other than that. We're in an exciting Champions League format, so we want to can we get into the playoff stage of that. But alongside that, it'll be for me looking at that at the football performance and the consistency of that. I think there were spells last year where we played some fantastic football, and probably more so towards the end with some sporadic games in between. But now that the clarity's there with everything and how we're working, then I would expect us to really be a lot more consistent than what we were last season.
First game of the season on Sunday. Are you happy with where your squad are personnel-wise, but also fitness-wise, tactically-wise?
Yeah. No, I'm very pleased with from the fitness aspect and from the tactical aspect. We've worked on some things over the pre-season, especially out in America, against some really good opponents. And it was interesting because I had one young player of mine who played for Chelsea, a former player, and he said after the game when he played against him, he was talking on the bench and he was talking about that. It's a Brendan team we're playing. So that was a good sign for me on a personal level, because he has played for me before and knows what I expect and demand, and he can see it in a different team, but playing the same way. So from that side of it, it's we're in a really good place.
Just wanted to ask you about Pao Bernardo. The club confirmed he's joined permanently last night. How big is that for the club, and what can he bring this season now he's here permanently? Yeah,
it's a fantastic signing for the club. He was a young player that came in late on last season. Modern times, it's about the squad, and especially when you play the games that we played. We played 50 games last season, and we'll play more this season. So to have a squad is very, very important. And Paulo was a young player, Portugal under-21 captain coming in. He contributed some really big moments last season for us. He's very low maintenance as a player. Like for a young player, he was so professional last year, and whether he was playing or not, he was a really good teammate, and that's the culture that we have here. So he fit it perfectly into that, but he also could see, and I can see, that he can improve and develop. So bringing him in is a really, really good addition to our squad.
Personnel wise, how close is the squad to where you need it to be for this season?
Yeah, no, we want to improve. Yes, there's absolutely no doubt. I'm not going to get caught up in a whole negative, toxic energy around signings and everything else. I think every club will finish the season and then expect to be stronger in their next season. And we're no different. So, do we want to improve? Yes. Does the board know that? Yes. But with the tools that we have at this moment in time, the players are working very, very well. And I would expect us to add to that and be stronger by the time the window closes.
And there's a lot of speculation about Matt O'Reilly. You've been asked a lot of questions about him. How has he dealt with that speculation, and how confident are you that won't affect him on the pitch?
Yeah, I'm very confident it won't affect him. It's not easy. That's the reality of it. But he is an ultimate professional. He knows he's in a good place here. You know, I've said it before. Celtic's a place that you can leave, but you don't have to. And I think he has seen what the last 3 years and that last season that he's had, what it has given him, and that progress that he's made in his career. So, was he 23? So he's got another. If he gets to 35 years of age, he's got 12 more years left in his career. So he's invested in his time, in his development. It's clear he will attract attention, but I've said it during the week that, and this is not just for Celtic, this is for the Scottish game in general. I think for so long, the price that's set on a player is because of the league. And having worked down south for a number of years and knowing the monies and the finances and the level of players, then sometimes then the league gets the fee and gets the offer. Well, it won't happen. You pay for the player. You absolutely pay for the player, and if you want the player, and as I said, I've known young guys in this window that I've worked with recently who've gone for say £30 million, so, and we get offers in for the likes of Matt, with the greatest respect, nowhere near that. So we don't have to sell. The club doesn't have to sell. We respect that there will be a point in a young player's career at this club where he may, for financial conditions of his life, be able to improve that 3-4 times over. Okay, but there has to be still a value to the player and not just the league. And for us, he's a very valuable player. So, but until that changes, I've got every faith in Matt, his focus, his mentality, and you can see it in pre-season. His performances, again, consistently very, very high. So he looks in a great place along with the other players.
And looking ahead to Sunday, what kind of challenge do you expect from Kilmarnock?
Always a challenge with Derek's teams. Fantastic coach. I watched the game last night. You'd be disappointed. Okay, difficult conditions, very hot. But it doesn't take away the job that he has done there for one. To be sat watching Kilmarnock in a European game was, a really testament to the work that he's done and his staff. But also I know that every time we play, we have to be at our very best, and that's what we aim to be at the weekend. So yeah, it's a tough start game for us, but we really have to go and make that first step, make it a good step.
Just going back to Matt, he's obviously had to deal with speculation the last few transfer windows as well. Can you see that he's maybe learnt from that and is now a better place to deal with it all?
Well, I think he understands, and as a young guy, which is great, that a lot of it can be gossip and speculation. And until there's something concrete there that really makes him think, then he gets on with his work. So I think that's a gift that he has. He's very level-headed, and there's no doubt like there's speculation with a top European team or Premier League teams can wobble you. There's no doubt, but I've not seen that. I've not seen that with him at all. And I think we have a lot of communication on it as well. He knows my feelings on his ability and where he's at and where he can go to. But it's like everything in life, it's all about timing.
There's reports down south. Brendan seemed to suggest Adam Eder could be done before the game on Sunday. Is that something that could be true?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. Would you be hopeful of getting anybody in before Sunday's game at all?
I'm not sure that there's work going on, but we just have to keep our eyes open and hopefully we can. But I'm not. My focus is very much with the squad of players that we have now, with Pao in and getting us ready for the weekend. And then we've still got just under 4 weeks to bring the players in that'll hopefully be the difference for us.
Would you anticipate working up to that transfer deadline, or would you, in an ideal world, have it all done without having the dramas of last-minute deals?
Yeah, I'm quite relaxed on it. I've known what I've always wanted, knowing how we can improve the team. But there's so many moving parts in transfers. It's not just that player we need and we pick him, and it's not as simple as that. It's very complex. If it was only one way, then I would want to have had them in for now.
Yeah.
Clearly, every coach manager would love to have the players in where they could work all pre-season, bed them in, and get them stable, and then start the new season. But it doesn't always work like that. So, but whilst the work is going on behind to improve the squad and give us those sort of guys that can make the difference for us, we'll work with the players that we have. There'll be clearly some players that'll move on, that'll feel that they want to go and play games. But I can only pay testament to the actual squad, because it can be a very, very challenging period pre-season, with players either thinking their futures elsewhere or maybe not so long to go in the contracts. But this is arguably one of the best pre-seasons I've ever had. Just in terms of mentality, just in terms of the work, the intensity, and just seeing the growth in the team and seeing them grow. And that's what I've always wanted. I've done it in my own personal life and professional life. You like to see things grow, and this team have been absolutely brilliant over pre-season. So we want to make these steps now and take it into the competitive games.
Could you put a number, Brendan, on what you'd like to add before the window shuts? Can you put a number on the bodies that you need?
I can in my own mind, but not openly.
But not to us?
No, because you guys know the score. If I give you a number, then that we get held against that. So I know internally what I want in my own mind to help us and squad, but and we can only really assess the window once it's done. And I think and our duty is for the supporters to give them the best team that we possibly can, because they deserve that, the support they give the club, the money they spend at this club. Okay, so we as a football club have to give them the best team that we possibly can, but sometimes that isn't always straight away. Sometimes you have to wait that little bit, and as frustrating as that can be for supporters, for managers, for coaches, and also for the players, because the players want the competition. They want the fresh faces in order to improve. So, but as long as by the 31st of August we've improved our team and our squad, then we'll all be really happy and we can move on.
You mentioned all day that the Euros was having a bit of an effect in football in general, just slowing things down a wee bit. Is there therefore got to be a wee bit of a need for patience? People would obviously like everything done by now, but as you say, still 4 weeks to go, so plenty still can happen.
Yeah, I think the challenge in modern life is that there's nobody's patient for anything, So because everything is for now. But like you say, it's a knock-on effect. Lots of the Premier League teams are in America or travelling away. They're further behind in the pre-season preparation phases, so away in the various parts, like we were a few weeks ago. And it's only then really, because you have the Euros, all of those players are out, so they need players that might be available later on. It's only really when they'll all come back and the players that have been in the tournament football come back that then the squad starts to swell, and then they can look at then maybe making movements from there. So yeah, I think those are all the little bits that behind the scenes that maybe a supporter or some supporters may not understand. But of course, the most important thing is that we do improve the squad and look to do that over the course of the rest of the window.
Is the biggest potential enemy here, complacency, Brendan, because Celtic are in such a healthy position right now in terms of domestically, but you can't afford to sit still as a manager. You can't afford to not try and drive it on. Is that something, a balance that needs to be found, the danger of thinking, well, do we really need to spend that big?
No, well, not within our psyche. Certainly not within a manager's psyche and a player's psyche. I think it's natural that others can think that, and that you could just win, but absolutely no chance. Absolutely no chances. We're measured on our own standard, and our standards are domestically been really strong, and that's the bread and butter. So you have to continue with that, and you can't not just think that it will change. It won't change. I think we've seen that a few years ago. Rangers actually won the league. Celtic maybe not in the best position. So people might have thought Rangers would have moved away and that was them. They'd won the league. But then quickly it changed again. So I'm always mindful of certainly complacency doesn't ever enter my mind, because we didn't win all our trophies last year. We won 2. We lost out on 1. So domestically we've got to make up on that. And then in Europe, we have to be better in Europe. Simple as that. We can't beat about the bush. We look at where we're at. We have to be better. But in order to be better, it's no the players you need quality. And if you're going to improve in that, then we need to find that. So it's absolutely simple as that. So that's our drive. That's our motivation, and that's something that the ambition is absolutely burning for us to be the best that we can be.
What does looking better in Europe look like to you, Brendan? Is it progression? Is it holding your own and kind of impressing your brand of football in Europe? How does that manifest this season?
For me, I want us to be able to get into a playoff position, and I think that it's the balance, because you're playing teams at a really high level. But obviously, we now get 8 games. We also have being realistic as well. You know, the club has won 1 game in so many years and at home. So, but that shouldn't stop us pushing. And I think with the right quality of player at that level that can help us, then I believe that we can do that. Absolutely. I've got every confidence that we can do that. We were very, very close last year. Some will run down because they look purely at we didn't qualify. But if you actually come away and magnify in on the games, the 3 home games, we won 1 and we could have very easily won the other 2. And maybe, as is about a bit of luck, we could have done. The games away from home were close as well. Clearly, the Atletico Madrid away was a tough one for us. So for me, success will always be to try and come out of the group stages, you know, and but I know what we need for that. Otherwise, it can be a real challenge. We'll always look to play it in the way we want to play, you know. There's different ways to succeed, but for me, we'll look to play in recent games like we've seen there in the pre-season with Man City and Chelsea. You're playing against top players, but you want to take the game to them and put your style of football. But you also know there's balance. You have to defend at times, and I think that balance is what has pleased me as time has gone on here. We want to be aggressive and hopefully in the Champions League stay with that same mentality.
You mentioned Man City there. How impressed were you with Casper Schmeichel's save against Erling Haaland?
Yeah, no, he's still one of the best shot stoppers in world football. And I was really excited to be here. I know the conversation that I had with him, he couldn't get here quick enough. But he's still a top keeper. You see his presence in the goal, you see his stature in the goal. But also with Casper, I know how competitive and how hungry he is. That really impressed me when I worked with him at Leicester. His competitive age, and he's clearly got his mind set on the World Cup in a couple of years' time. So that's great for him. It's also brilliant for us. But you see his stature in the goal, his presence, what he gives us with the ball as well. To progress the game. So I think as a whole package, it's an absolutely brilliant signing for us.
Does Casper bring leadership as well, given you've lost Joe, who was such an important part of that leadership group?
Yeah, Joe was amazing. What a man. He'll be loved here forever by the players and the supporters. He gave 3 years of incredible service, and it was brilliant for him how it all ended. You know, he ended how you'd want to as a player. So yeah, when you take away that figure that he was in the changing room, and to be able to replace it with something very, very similar, different types, but real bit of old school leadership there. These boys are the last of this dying breed of, 37, 38-year-olds, proper leaders. And so to have that in the changing room, and we can really see the influence in it already.
How's your squad, Brendan? I'm thinking Nicholas Kuhn was obviously injured for that last game. Dyson came off. Cameron had his first action. How was the squad?
Yeah, all fine. Nicholas back in training the last couple of days, so he'll be okay for the weekend. Dyson, we just need to assess. He may not make it at the weekend. It was quite a nasty knee bruise that he had against Chelsea when he came off. So So we'll give that to the last moment and see how he is. Calm, fine. So the squad that we have is in a really good place.
How's Anthony Ralston been? We obviously saw him play in America, but having gone through what he went with Scotland, came through that, he has spoken about it, but would that be something you'd speak to him about, making sure he's recovered from it, you know, in the game against Switzerland?
Yeah, I spoke to Tony when he was out there.
Yeah.
So, I had a good conversation with him out there. I think he came out of it with real credit. The tournament, coming in late on to playing a system he's not really used to playing in, how he adapted, how he came through the pass. It didn't surprise me because I know you either sink or swim in those situations, and for me, he was always going to swim. He's a tough boy, and so happy that he's here. So, but no, I think all the boys, you know, they had time to go away, reset. He's come back in. He's looked really, really good over the course of pre-season, and he's fit and round to go. So, no, anything around that's all been in the past, really.
Brendan, I think previously you've kind of set targets before the season begins. Targets that you express to the players and set. I remember, I think, your first season, previously, you know, you smashed through all your targets, you hit them. Have you done the same? Are you still doing that? Have you sat them down and said, look, here's what we're aiming for today in terms of number of points, number of trophies?
No, I think that's something that clearly we'll speak about before that's part of my presentation tomorrow, because you come through your pre-season, you're fit, and then you're just then getting ready for the season. So, but I think here at Celtic, a lot of it is self-explanatory, really. You know, you get 3 trophies domestically, 4 big challenges. So, it's to win them is the targets. The Champions League one, like I say, we would like to qualify for the playoffs at the end of January. So, or by the end of January, and then there'll be other little targets that I'll speak with players individually on in terms of their own personal targets and where they can get to and how they can improve.
Do you think that's an important sort of psychological thing to set these targets and have something to aim for over the course of that achievement level?
I believe so. Some will say it's very difficult in the modern game because you just win the next game. But I always think it's nice to have a signpost of where you want to go. And making the first step is always important. You might not ever see to the very top of the staircase, but as long as you start in the right way and you make the right first steps, then eventually you can get to where you want to get to. So, but I think having a signpost to where you want to go is important.
Just ask you, Jim Craig, going to be given the honour unfurling the flag on Sunday. How fitting is that?
Very, very. Obviously, a club legend. He carries himself like a legend does, with class and integrity. And yeah, I've obviously known Jim around the club for a long time. So yeah, really, really nice for him and the family. And yeah, it's a great way for us to symbolise the achievement of last season, and then begin with the defence for this season. So no better guy to do that.